Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's time, once again, for another depressing dose of dismal Disney. As many of you undoubtedly know, actress Gina Carano was fired by Disney via social media in February 2021 following an SJW cancel culture war that was waged upon her on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. For Disney, she had portrayed the character Cara Dune in the now formerly popular Star Wars series on Disney Plus entitled The Mandalorian. The series had been incredibly popular among Star Wars fans up until the release of its third season on Disney Plus earlier this year, as I had talked about in a video that I had released back in April. Gina Carano was also supposed to have starred in her own Star Wars series called Rangers of the New Republic that Kathleen Kennedy ultimately canceled 3 months after Gina was fired. On August 5th, which was only weeks after Elon Musk had rebranded the social media platform formerly known as Twitter as X, as I had talked about in a video I released at the time, he posted the following on X. If you were unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill. No limit. Please let us know. After a number of followers of Musk on X had flagged Gina Carano in multiple responses to his post, Gina Carano responded by declaring, "I think I qualify." Carano was fired from her role on The Mandalorian as Cara Dune in February 2021 after she shared a social media post to Instagram warning of the dangers of hating your neighbors. The social media post in question was a screenshot from Warrior Gym podcast that stated, "Jews were beaten in the streets not by NZ soldiers but by their neighbors, even by children." It then featured a quote that stated, "Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where NZ soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?" Accompanying these words was an image of children wielding blunt weapons while chasing down a woman in undress. Following this social media post, which a number of SJW cancel culture users shared on the platform formerly known as Twitter, a Disney spokesman announced via Twitter that Carano had been fired. The spokesman stated, quote, "Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable," unquote. While I don't believe that Gina Carano had any ill intent with her post, and I understand what she was attempting to say analogously, people on the far left used her post as a means to have her fired from Lucasfilm because they were looking for any excuse to have that done. And it's very unlikely that most, if not all of them, were actually viewers of The Mandalorian. Carano noted that this Instagram post and its circulation on Twitter by activists attempting to get her fired was the last in a chain of events used by Disney employees that were targeting her. Speaking with former New York Times columnist Barry Weiss, Carano revealed, "Earlier on last year, before The Mandalorian came out, they wanted me to use their exact wording for an apology over pronoun usage. I declined and offered a statement in my own words. I made clear I wanted nothing to do with mocking the transgender community and was just drawing attention to the abuse of the mob in forcing people to put pronouns in their bio." In response to refusing to apologize, Carano detailed that Lucasfilm excluded her from promoting the show, saying, "That was heartbreaking, but I didn't want to take away from the hard work of everyone who worked on the project. So I said, okay. That was the last time I was contacted about any type of public statement or apology from Lucasfilm. I found out through social media, like everyone else, that I had been fired." Carano had previously been lampooned by activists accusing her of transphobia for allegedly liking a tweet mocking individuals who listed their pronouns in their social media bios. In response to the flood of activists attempting to shame her into putting pronouns into her own bio, Carano responded to one user writing, quote, "Yes, Pedro and I spoke and he helped me understand why people were putting them in their bios. I didn't know before, but I do now. I won't be putting them in my own bio, but good for all of you who choose to. I stand against bullying, especially the most vulnerable, and freedom to choose." Unquote. When asked why people were upset with her, Carano also relayed, quote, "They're mad cause I won't put pronouns in my bio to show my support for trans lives. After months of harassing me in every way, I decided to put 3 very controversial words in my bio. Beep, bop, boop. I'm not against trans lives at all. They need to find less abusive representation." Unquote. When asked how some of these activists could find her response mocking, Carano replied, quote, "I don't think trans people would like all of you trying to force a woman to put something in her bio through harassment and name-calling every day for months." Unquote. She then went on to list the types of name-calling she was receiving, such as being called a racist and a transphobe, as well as people hoping something bad would happen to her, including hoping that she would lose her career. Carano then added that she hoped that the slate could be wiped clean with an end to the use of hateful comments. She also said, quote, "I know trans people wouldn't condone this harassment when they hear about the children, women, and men who have contacted me, thanking me for taking a stand against these bullies because it affected their mental health to the point of near suicide at times. Yeah, that's happening." Unquote. Not only did Carano detail that Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company attempted to get her to apologize for offending so-called trans activists, Carano also revealed to Ben Shapiro that the company and its employees were actively bullying her for her social media activity. She said, quote, "I've been through so much, and I've seen so much now clearly of the bullying that's been taking place, and I saw it before. I'm not the only one that's ever been bullied by this company, and I know that so deeply. I could share a story which would turn things around in the media, but I can't because it would sell out a friend. Everyone is afraid of losing their job." Unquote. And that brings me to another article about a reported whistleblower. A Disney whistleblower claims that the company required employees to keep diversity, equity, and inclusion virtue diaries that determined whether employees would receive promotions, raises, or even keep their jobs. The whistleblower also claimed that the company systematically persecuted conservative employees. The whistleblower supplied a number of documents to YouTuber and scooper WDW Pro, who said, quote, "It is now our understanding that at Disney since the summer of 2020, many employees of the company have been required to maintain their various virtuous actions within diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that the diary of their good deeds was part of maintaining their job security. But not only that, it was in fact also tied to their job compensation, if you can believe it. We're talking about bonuses that you might not receive if you went afoul of LaTondra Newton, the prior chief diversity officer of Disney, if you went afoul of her belief systems." Unquote. I released a video back on June 22nd about the departure of LaTondra Newton from the Disney company as its DEI exec. And within days of her likely firing, the DEI bosses at Warner Bros. Discovery, Netflix, and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences were also fired, as I had talked about in a follow-up video that I had released on July 2nd. Later in WDW Pro's same video, he shared more information that the alleged whistleblower had provided to him, saying, quote, "Starting in the summer of 2020 and moving forward until today, if you espouse political beliefs in the workplace or outside the workplace or on social media, and those political or socio-cultural beliefs did not align with very far-left views, then you could expect to be sent to HR to have some serious conversations and discussions." Unquote. WDW Pro then went on to claim from the alleged whistleblower that any employees who didn't track the company's DEI requirements in writing and even went as far as supporting conservative views on social media would then be brought into HR. He went on to say, quote, The Walt Disney Company seems to have eliminated the vast majority of their conservative employees and have turned the company into a monolithic kind of state where everyone there is either far to the left on the spectrum or they are a moderate or conservative in hiding, unquote. Paraphrasing something else that WDW Pro had claimed that the alleged whistleblower had told him and shared was that essentially, for many people who had dreamed of working for Disney for a long time, the reality of working there under the new mandatory DEI system had turned into a nightmare since its requirements were tied directly to their pay. Every large company in the US has some kind of DEI or something similar that's often referred to as EEOC. The problem with Disney and all of the major Hollywood studios, as well as the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, is that they took it to an extreme to appease an increasingly vocal number of complainers due to the Academy awarding all 20 acting nominations to white actors for the first of 2 consecutive years beginning on January 15th, 2015. From that point forward, Hollywood studios embraced racial quotas and checkboxes for essentially every single Hollywood production, with, as I talked about in a video that I had released earlier this year, the Academy now requires mandatory quotas for marginalized groups for any picture to be nominated for Best Picture, beginning with the 2024 Academy Awards. And well-known actor Richard Dreyfuss was one of the few to speak up against it, saying that the requirements made him want to vomit. Hollywood doesn't just have DEI, it has an increasing number of mandatory imposed quotas and checkmarks on practically every production that quite often adversely rewrites what original creators had envisioned because they don't fall within Hollywood's self-imposed overdose of DEI mandates. The result has been a melange of poorly written shows and movies whose sole purpose has been to promote Hollywood's view of what diversity, equality, and inclusion should be, to the detriment of the original works that, in some cases, are barely recognizable. Netflix's disaster The Witcher and Amazon's The Lord of the Rings of Power are 2 prime examples that contain plenty of representation but very little in the way of entertaining and engaging content, because not only are they simply too dissimilar to the original works, the writing has been utterly awful. But what did Amazon's showrunners for The Rings of Power, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, say? That they were writing the novel that J.R.R. Tolkien never had, when in fact, what they wrote was nowhere near the excellence or brilliant imagination of Tolkien. Amazon's The Rings of Power is just pure garbage. And how have audiences across the entire political spectrum reacted? They have rejected these poor excuses for paid entertainment that are nothing more than insults to the original creators. And Disney has produced plenty of shows and movies where DEI took precedence over content, such as Kathleen Kennedy's utterly disappointing and unwatchable Star Wars sequel trilogy and the poorly written Disney Plus shows. Then there's also most of the useless MCU Phase 4 movies, which are far better known as the MCU. What Disney and Lucasfilm did to Gina Carano was a symptom of a broader problem infecting the whole of Disney, an overdose of woke identity politics. If she does indeed get help from Elon Musk and decides to sue Disney and Lucasfilm, I'm all for it. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.